Good evening. Welcome back to my channel. This is Indie Tiger, and in this video we're going to be asking ourselves why we need Captain Kirk more than ever. Spoilers ahead. I won't be talking about any individual episode, but I will be bringing up points here and there from certain episodes to make my case. And so I wanted to let you know that if you haven't seen the series, go ahead and watch it and then come back to this. So, what made me think about this was a couple of weeks ago, Shuon had put out a video of Have We Failed Men and Why Men Are Lonely. And I want to read this to you. I said that, yeah, men are lonely, but that's the thing. We deal with it. And we deal with a lot of bullshit that people want to put on us. So that's what it means to be a man. Well, somebody responded to me, and I won't mention their name. She's a trans female, and she said that's kind of the thing. I've tried and hear my friends tell stories of how they've tried to talk to men, make them vent, talk about their issues. I get it. I also was taught not to cry, to bottle things up. But how can you possibly overcome these issues if you don't talk to us when we want to listen? And that was part of their response. And then I said to them, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you and your friends want to help out, but there is no need. Men deal with the burdens placed on us. We handle it so that others can be vulnerable. We were taught that men don't cry not because we aren't supposed to be vulnerable. We were taught that so that others can depend on our strength when they have no strength of their own, when they need to be the most vulnerable. It's not for a lack of courage that we don't reach out. It's because of courage that we don't reach out. No greater love has a man for his fellow man than he lay down his life for him. That is the way of men. And I really believe that to be true. Men sacrifice for others. It's what I was taught. Men's needs go after others' needs have been met. And this is something that Kirk embodies as an archetype. There are others, Clint Eastwood comes to mind, as the spaghetti western hero. He's stoic, he's brave, other people's needs come before his own needs. And I think that is really telling of an entire generation of men that grew up at the time that I grew up. We see that Kirk has several good qualities. One of the qualities that he has is empathy and compassion. In the episode Charlie X, Charlie Evans was found by the Antares crew on the planet Thasus, where there is legends of non-corporeal beings still living there. Charlie is the sole survivor of a shipwreck. He's 3 years old at the time the shipwrecked, and the Thasians give him a gift that turns into a curse when he finally manages to escape and get in among the crew of the Antares and the crew of the Enterprise and other people. Because Charlie has no empathy, he's never learned social skills because the Thasians can't teach him these things. They don't know what love is. They can't teach him that. They can't teach him empathy. He can't touch them. He doesn't know these things, but he's a 17-year-old boy and he has the power to transmute objects and to get rid of things that he doesn't like, and he terrorizes the crew of the Enterprise. He attacks Captain Kirk with pain on a couple of occasions. He breaks Spock's legs. He causes Lieutenant Uhura to lose her singing voice and for Spock's lyre not to play. And he is obsessed with Yeoman Rand because he thinks he's in love with her. And she finally has to do something about it. She finally slaps him in the face, and without any compunction at all, he makes her disappear. He's already made one crewman disappear. He's made all the phasers disappear. And he makes one woman's face just go away. He turns another one into a lizard. After she's been nothing but nice to him, this Tina Lawton, she's another yeoman, she's trying to be nice to him, and he doesn't want her. He wants Janice Rand, so he just turns around and turns her up straight up into a lizard. So he has no social skills, and he needs social skills, but he's never learned them because he's never had anybody around. Well, at the end of the episode, the Thasians catch up to the Enterprise. They restore the crew of the Enterprise. They were unable to restore the crew of the Antares, but they do manage to restore the crew of the Enterprise. And after everything that's happened, after the holy terror that he has been, and he's begging to stay with the crew. He'll never do it again. He says, I'll never do it again. I promise I'll be good. Kirk turns to the Thasian and says, the boy belongs with his own kind. And the Thasian says, we have to take him back. He will either destroy you or you will be forced to destroy him. And after everything that's happened, when Janice Rand reappears on the bridge, she's upset. You can see it. She's almost in tears over the fact that they can't save Charlie. And Lieutenant Uhura is heartbroken. You can hear it in her voice when she says that the Thasians are signaling that they're leaving and Charlie is gone. Charlie needs empathy. More importantly, Charlie needs to know what empathy is. He needs to see it from others, and Kirk and company are showing it. They are, after everything they've been through, they are still willing to help Charlie. And this is something that we as men have learned from Captain Kirk. And we've learned to shoulder any burden from Captain Kirk. This is what men are. When somebody needs to be vulnerable, like Charlie is vulnerable at this stage. When he needs somebody to lean on, Captain Kirk is there for him. Captain Kirk is compassionate and empathetic and trying to still do the right thing for Charlie Evans. Even despite his own needs, Captain Kirk will put the needs of others ahead of his. This is something else that men do. It's what I learned growing up. Men put the needs of others before their own. In the episode City on the Edge of Forever, Spock and Kirk and McCoy go back to the 1930s. McCoy, in a drug-addled state, has managed to slip past them and go back into the past through the Guardian of Forever. And he does something in the past that destroys the future. And there is no United Federation of Planets, and there is no Enterprise to go back to. And Kirk and Spock go back into the past a few days or a few weeks before McCoy does, so that they know they have time to prepare and know what McCoy did to change the past. And Kirk falls in love with this mission worker, Edith Keeler. And it turns out that Edith Keeler has to die in order for the timeline to be corrected. Somehow McCoy had saved Edith Keeler's life in the past, and because of that, the entire future history of the Federation has changed. Now, Kirk, in the weeks that he's there before McCoy, he's fallen in love with Edith Keeler. And Spock says to him, Edith Keeler must die in order for our future to be rewritten to what it was originally. And Kirk not only, despite the fact that he's in love, despite his needs, he not only sees Edith Keeler die, he prevents McCoy from saving Edith Keeler, because the millions ahead of in the future have to have their future. So when he stops McCoy, McCoy asks him, "Do you know what you've done? I could have saved her." And you can just see the anguish and the pain on Kirk's face when he has to save the future of humanity and give up his needs. And not only does he feel it, you can tell that Spock knows what his captain is feeling. When he says to McCoy, after McCoy asks, "Do you know what you've done?" and Kirk can't say anything because he's in so much pain and anguish, Spock responds, "He knows, Doctor. He knows." It's that feel, you can get it from his line delivery that he is feeling empathetic towards his captain, and that he has those feelings. As a Vulcan, he hides them pretty well, but he does have those feelings. So he understands what Kirk is actually going through. Now, I say the video is called "Why We Need Captain Kirk More Than Ever." Really, I should say, why do we need the original series crew more than ever? And especially Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. We see others as well. You know, there's always Scotty and Sulu and Chekhov and Uhura, who are compassionate. We see it, but really let's look at the main three. We see in the Doomsday Machine, for example, Commodore Decker has lost his entire crew, and we feel bad for him until he takes over command of the Enterprise and he tries to destroy the Doomsday Machine after having already wrecked one ship and his entire crew is destroyed. He's an empathetic character up until this point. But then when he starts recklessly endangering the lives of and the ship of the Enterprise, McCoy gets angry with him. And he starts yelling at him, saying, "You're crazy. You can't do this." And Spock, "Do something." And Spock calms McCoy down. And at least McCoy has the wherewithal to say "sir" at the end of it, because he is talking to a superior officer. So he does show the proper respect, even though he's acting out rashly himself. But Spock steps in and saves McCoy from getting into serious trouble with Commodore Decker. Commodore Decker could literally have him arrested if he wanted to, but Spock calms McCoy down, and the Commodore calms down a little bit, and he dismisses McCoy, and Spock and Commodore Decker. Spock is following Commodore Decker's orders because he has to. He knows he has to, until Kirk gives Spock the order to take command of the Enterprise on his own personal authority. So not only do we see Spock in this episode protecting McCoy, but later on in the episode, when Spock is ordered to take command of the Enterprise and Commodore Decker doesn't recognize his authority to do so, Kirk says, "On my personal authority as captain of the Enterprise, I order you to take command." So now we see Kirk actually protecting Spock. Kirk is taking on the potential ire of Commodore Decker by saying, "It's my ship. I want Spock in command. You have to leave the bridge, Commodore." And the Commodore relents and is supposed to go down to sickbay. We know what happens. He sacrifices himself in a shuttlecraft, and Kirk on board the Constellation, which is almost a hunk of junk anyway at this point, because it's almost been completely destroyed by the Doomsday Machine. He manages to ram that thing right down its throat, as they say in the episode, and destroys the Doomsday Machine. But it's Commodore Decker who is empathetic. Then he's the antagonist. Then he's got his redemption, and then Kirk, through the inspiration of Decker, manages to destroy the machine, the Doomsday Machine. And in every instance of this episode, people are trying to protect other people, and people are being respectful where they need to be. And that is something that we also learned from Kirk, Spock, and McCoy especially. And it's to the detriment of their career that they often do these things. In the episode that we were just talking about, Spock could be in real jeopardy. Kirk is in jeopardy because he's taken on the jeopardy that Spock might have taken on by relieving the Commodore. Spock takes on the jeopardy that McCoy would have gotten from Commodore Decker, potentially. So we see that it doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is the larger picture, their friendship, not their career. Their career can go to hell for all they care, as long as they can protect others. This is something that men do. And this is something that we learn that men do. In the episode Amok Time, where Spock is going through Pon farr and he's crazed because his hormones are all out of balance and he has to fight Kirk to the death, we find out that McCoy steps in and surreptitiously gives Kirk a drug that will simulate death after a few moments of combat. Once Kirk's supposedly lifeless body is beamed up, he goes to Spock and he says, "As surprising as this is, you're the captain now. What are your orders?" And it doesn't matter to McCoy if he's in trouble. It matters to McCoy that his friends are okay. Earlier in the episode, they're ordered to Altair 6 to attend a coronation event. And Spock is literally dying because of Ponfar. And Kirk is like, "He saved my life a dozen times. What is a career compared to that?" And so Kirk protects Spock. Spock is protected by McCoy from actually killing Kirk because of trickery on McCoy's part. And we find out at the end that it's a trick. And McCoy has saved not only his friend's life, but he saved Spock's career. Because Spock would have to be court-martialed and maybe even executed. Who knows what the penalty is for murder in the Federation? I don't think we've ever learned that. And not only does it extend to his friends, strangers. In the episode The Empath, we see McCoy, who has been tortured by, I want to say the Vidians, but I know it's not the Vidians, although this prosthetic makeup kind of looks like Vidian makeup. They are torturing people to try to get Jem, who is an empath, to learn how to sacrifice herself for others. And it's through Kirk, Spock, and McCoy that she learns that lesson. And even though, again, McCoy has saved his friends already in this episode, Kirk was willing to save his friends in the episode. He's got the bends, and McCoy goes behind his back and injects him with something to make him sleep. Then Spock is like, "Hey, you've made it easy on me. Now I'll be the one to be tortured." And even though Spock isn't going to die, there's a high probability that he'll be a vegetable. And so he's willing to sacrifice himself for McCoy. He's willing to sacrifice himself for Kirk. He's willing to sacrifice himself for anybody. And McCoy is the one who ends up getting tortured because, again, McCoy's a little sneaky devil and he injects Spock as well. And he pushes Jem away rather than let her sacrifice herself for him. It's only when Spock and Kirk convince the aliens, that I'm going to call Vidians even though I know I'm wrong, they convince the aliens that Jem is ready to save her planet. And they save McCoy's life, and then they take off. And that's just the way that episode ends. So we see, again, these people are willing to sacrifice everything. They're willing to pay the ultimate price to save somebody else's life. I said in the beginning, I think, that right now people want to blame men for all the ills of the world. If I didn't say that at the beginning, I'm saying it now. while there is some truth to that statement, there's a lot of it that's not really true either. And men, being men, shoulder that burden. And without complaint. Now, as the one person said, we've tried to get you to talk about it. Me and my friends, we try to get you to talk about these things. But you won't open up. Well, men do open up. There's a very special relationship between best friends who are men. And it's not something that we talk about. I don't even think it's something that we can describe fully. I think the best way it's been described is brothers from another mother. It means you've taken on this person as your own family, but it's your best friend. And men have those. If they're lucky, they might have more than one best friend. But it's to those people that we talk to. It's not something that is casually brought up. You know, the burdens that we shoulder for others. As I said at the beginning, men are strong so that others can be vulnerable. Men learn not to cry so that when others don't have the strength in themselves, they can turn to a man to get the strength that they need. And that is what it really means, at least to me, to be a man. And with that thought, I am out. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, please like. If you like what I have to say, subscribe. Share this with others. It really helps me out with the channel. And I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to talk to you guys afterwards. So, happy Star Trek Day. Everybody have a great evening.